The end times are upon us. The Great Necromancer arrives in Total War Warhammer 3 for the Lords of the End Times DLC. He returns as the supreme leader of a unified undead empire. At the outset of his campaign, Nagash begins as mighty as he is, but stripped of his ancient majesty following his resurrection. Players must embark on a global quest to reclaim his power, gradually restoring his godlike spellcasting, massive physical stat line, and lethal magical reserves. As his divine stature returns, Nagash gains access to one of the most unique strategic assets in the game: the Great Black Pyramid itself. Functioning as a colossal mobile fortress on the campaign map and an overwhelming defensive nexus on the battlefield, this floating obsidian monument allows the Great Necromancer to project his power directly into enemy territory. Furthermore, his campaign features a bespoke mechanic to compel or summon the 9 Mortarchs, incorporating legendary figures such as Vlad, Manfred, Neferata, and Arkin the Black under his singular, absolute command with enhanced mounts and specialized campaign buffs. But what truly sets Nagash apart on the battlefield is his unprecedented ability to command a fully integrated Undead Legion's roster, shattering the traditional boundaries between the existing unliving factions. Generals playing as Nagash can recruit seamlessly across the entire spectrum of death, merging the heavy bone constructs of the Tomb Kings, the swift vampiric horrors of Sylvania, and the black powder artillery of the Vampire Coast into a single, terrifying war machine. Together with support heroes like Tomb Heralds and Coven Mounts, this hybrid army allows players to experience the absolute, overwhelming tide of the undead legions as envisioned in the darkest hours of the end times. But now, we will explore the origins of Nagash, how the mighty Necromancer came to obtain so much power, and how he now returns to the old world during this tumultuous end times for a final reckoning. Thousands of years before the founding of the Empire, the southern lands of Nehekara flourished under the burning rays of the sun god. It was a realm of majestic city-states, vast marble monuments and proud priest kings. Among these sovereign domains, Khemri stood supreme. It was here that Nagash entered the world, the firstborn son of King Ketep. Nagash entered the great mortuary temples as a youth, rising quickly through the hierarchy due to an unmatched cold intellect. As High Priest, he spent decades studying the funeral rites and the preserved dead within the royal tombs. Yet, while his younger brother, Tutep, worked on wearing the heavy crown of the Kingdom of Khemri, bitter resentment festered within Nagash. He viewed the mortuary cult's endless search for immortality as a pathetic failure. The priests used prayers and herbal preservatives to delay the decay of flesh. Yet they could not conquer death itself. Nagash swore to unlock the true secrets of eternal life, regardless of the cost. The course of history changed when a rogue Druki ship, driven far off course by a violent storm, wrecked upon the shores of Nehekara. Among the survivors was a powerful sorceress of Nagaroth, captured alongside her crew and brought before Nagash. Recognizing the knowledge they possessed, Nagash secretly imprisoned the Dark Elves beneath the mortuary temple, where he tortured them until they revealed the secrets of black magic. By combining their forbidden teachings with the sacred death rites of the mortuary cult, Nagash created an entirely new discipline: necromancy. He discovered that, unlike the other winds of magic, the power of death could be bound within mortal flesh and blood, laying the foundation for his future mastery over life and death. With his new magical discipline established, Nagash sought to transcend mortal frailty permanently. Combining distilled dark magic, purified blood, and rare herbs gathered from distant lands, he brewed the elixir of life. The potion granted its drinker absolute immunity to aging, disease, and physical decay, though at a harrowing cost. A perpetual thirst for fresh blood. Nagash shared this draught with a cadre of loyal, ruthless disciples, including the nobleman Arkan, who would become his most devoted lieutenant. To ensure his knowledge endured for eternity, Nagash recorded his dark rituals within 9 heavy volumes bound in human hide, the legendary 9 Books of Nagash. Armed with ultimate sorcery and a loyal cabal of immortal followers, Nagash struck against his own bloodline. He entered the royal palace at midnight, seized his brother King Tutep, and sealed him alive within the subterranean tombs of their father. Nagash declared himself the undisputed king of Khemri, initiating a reign of absolute terror that lasted for centuries. As ruler of Khemri, Nagash transformed the prosperous city into a grim work camp dedicated to his monstrous ambition. He commanded the construction of a monument that overshadowed every architectural feat in Nehekaran history, the Great Black Pyramid. Engineered from black glass and obsidian, the gargantuan structure was designed as a colossal magical lens and not necessarily the resting place for a king. Its purpose was to draw the wind of Shyish from across the continent, focusing the magical energy into Khemri to grant Nagash total mastery over life and death.
The skies above Khemri turned the color of bruised iron as the great black structure rose, drinking the light from the sun and casting an endless shadow across the desert.
The surrounding priest kings of Nehekara watched the rise of Nagash with horror. When the tyrant demanded that all other cities render heavy tribute and bow to his unholy rule, the rulers of Lamia, Zandri, Labaris, and Kasabar forged a massive grand alliance to defy the Necromancer. The resulting war tore Nehekara apart. For decades, the armies of the living battled the dark sorcery of Nagash and his immortal nobles. Though Nagash unleashed waves of animated skeletons and dark curses, the combined might of the priest kings eventually pushed his forces back to the gate of Khemri. The allied armies breached the city, put his disciples to the sword, and shattered his mortal army. Realizing his hold on Nehekara was broken, he fled north into the barren mountain ranges, leaving behind a scarred realm that would never fully recover. From tormenting foreign sorcerers beneath the temples to burying his own brother alive within the royal catacombs, Nagash committed unthinkable horrors in his quest to conquer death. Which of these early atrocities do you feel marked the absolute point of no return for the High Priest of Khemri? Driven from the burning sands of Khemri, Nagash drifted north through barren mountain passes. His journey brought him to the bitter shores of the Sour Sea, where the jagged monolith known as Cripple Peak towered above the toxic mists. Deep within this desolate height, Nagash discovered vast veins of pure warpstone, the solidified essence of raw magic. For an entity steeped in the arts of dark sorcery, this glowing green stone was the ultimate fuel. Deep within the mountain, Nagash carved the colossal fortress of Nagashizar. There, endless ranks of skeletal servants mined vast deposits of warpstone, while great furnaces forged weapons, armor, and arcane devices to amplify his necromantic power. But Cripple Peak's riches and the intervention of the necromancer did not go unnoticed. The Skaven ruling Council of 13 coveted the mountain's warpstone, igniting a brutal subterranean conflict that raged beneath Nagashizar for more than a century. Skaven hordes poured into the lower levels of Nagashizar in their millions. Met by unbreakable walls of bone and steel, Nagash commanded vast legions of undead warriors that required neither sleep nor food, while the rat men unleashed warp fire throwers and mutated abominations. Neither side could achieve absolute victory. Realizing that prolonged war would drain his resources, Nagash offered the Council of 13 an uneasy truce. In exchange for vast quantities of raw warpstone and thousands of living captives to feed his dark experiments, Nagash permitted the rat men to retain their subterranean territory, temporarily securing his borders, while he prepared his ultimate vengeance against Nehekara. With his power amplified by mountains of refined warpstone, Nagash turned his terrifying gaze back toward the south. His vengeance upon Nehekara would be absolute. He initiated a necromantic ritual of unimaginable scale, a spell designed to extinguish all living matter across the entire continent and raise the dead as his permanent thralls. First, a thick, greasy black rain fell across the cities of Nehekara. The clear waters of the river Vitae turned into a sludge of blood and black bile, renamed forever as the River Mortis. Crops rotted in the fields overnight, livestock perished in their pens, and a devastating plague swept through the mortal population. King Alcadazar, the last ruler of a united Nehekara, watched helplessly as his warriors, his court, and his family withered with sickness and death. As the mortal population perished, Nagash unleashed the second phase of his incantation. A colossal wave of dark magic erupted from Nagashizar, rolling across the desert dunes. Millions of unburied bodies tore through their tombs, rising as a single mindless army under his direct mental control. Nagash dragged the weakened, broken King Alcadazar back to Nagashizar in heavy iron chains, forcing the fallen monarch to witness the utter obliteration of his civilization. Nagash had achieved absolute victory over Nehekara, yet his endless ambitions spelled his immediate undoing. The Council of 13 observed the culmination of the Great Ritual with profound panic. They realized that if Nagash completed his total mastery over the dead of Nehekara, his power would become absolute. The Skaven Empire, along with every living creature on the globe, would be crushed beneath an infinite tide of bone and rusted steel. So, in secret, the Skaven forged the Fellblade, crafted from pure warpstone and bound with lethal runes. The blade radiated a magic so volatile that it consumed the flesh of anyone who held it. Under the cover of dark sorcery, Skaven agents slipped into the throne room of Nagashizar, breaking the chains of King Alcadazar and placing the lethal blade in his hands. Taking advantage from a moment of vulnerability, Alcadazar charged forward and drove the fell blade into the Great Necromancer. The volatile blade tore Nagash's physical frame apart, severing his connection to the spell. Without the absolute power of Nagash binding them into a single hive mind, the resurrected kings and queens of Nehekara retained their ancient personalities and memories upon awakening. They looked upon their ruined, dry lands with grief and fury, declaring themselves the Tomb Kings, forever trapped in unliving forms, while their murderer was reduced to ash. As the shadow of chaos lengthened across the northern horizons, two powerful practitioners of the dark arts forged a treacherous alliance within the mist-veiled forests of Sylvania. Arkan the Black, the ancient Lich King and most loyal servant of the Great Necromancer, sought the ultimate restoration of his ancient master. Beside him stood Manfred von Carstein, the cunning Count of Midnight, whose endless ambition drove him to seek a power capable of subduing both the living and the dead. Though mutual hatred simmered beneath their pact, their goals aligned in a single dark enterprise. Manfred provided the political maneuvering and martial strength of Sylvania, while Arkan possessed the forbidden, ancient knowledge required to breach the veil between reality and the underworld. Together, they mapped a grand design to gather the scattered remnants of Nagash's power and tear the Great Necromancer back into the mortal plane. The resurrection required the reunification of Nagash's ancient artifacts of immense power that had been scattered across the globe following his banishment. Arkan and Manfred dispatched armies of unliving thralls and covert agents to retrieve these blighted treasures from the most heavily guarded vaults of the old world. But retrieving the relics was merely the foundation. To put a god back into physical form required a sacrifice of divine proportions. The ritual demanded the blood of living vessels who carried the sacred essence of mortal pantheons. Manfred and Arkan launched daring raids across multiple continents to capture these holy figures. They seized Volkmar the Grim, the Grand Theogenist who embodied the divine wrath of Sigmar. From the holy sanctuaries of Bretonnia, they dragged away the Fey Enchantress. There was also the capture of Aliathera, a high elf princess of Ulthuan. In her veins flowed the pristine bloodline of the elven deities, providing the ultimate spiritual fuel required to anchor Nagash's immortal soul to the earth. During the depths of winter, the conspirators gathered within the ancient stone circle known as the Nine Demons, deep in the heart of Sylvania. As a combined host of high elves and imperial soldiers marched to stop the ritual, Arkan raised a colossal necromantic barrier around the sacred site. Trapped before its walls, the attackers found themselves locked in a relentless battle as the dead rose again and again, transforming the battlefield into a gruesome war of attrition. Inside the circle, the captives were bound to heavy stone altars. Arkan began the incantations, and one by one the divine captives were slain. Their holy blood poured into a central cauldron of black magic. As the blood of the Fey Enchantress, Volkmar, and the Ever-Child mixed with the liquefied warpstone and the power of the relics, the sky above Sylvania split wide open.
The earth groaned as if in mortal agony, and the stars themselves turned pale as a towering shadow pulled itself out of the underworld.
A column of raw amethyst lightning struck the altar. From the swirling vortex of death magic emerged a gargantuan form clad in black plate, holding the mortis staff and wearing the crown of sorcery. Nagash had returned as the absolute god of undeath. Yet, A subtle flaw marred the triumph. Aliathra was not the true offspring of the Phoenix King, but the secret lineage of Prince Tyrion, carrying the ancestral curse of Anarion within her veins. The bloodline imperfection left Nagash with a perpetual, insatiable hunger for raw magical energy, setting the stage for his violent crusade across the mortal world. Following his rebirth in Sylvania, Nagash turned his terrifying gaze towards his ancient homeland. He led a vast procession of unliving horror south, into the burning sands of Nehekara, intent on claiming the ultimate throne he had been denied millennia ago. Cetra the Imperishable, Great King of Khemri, assembled the entire military might of the Tomb Kings to contest the invading deity. The resulting war shattered the desert. Cetra fought with absolute unyielding pride, refusing every command to bow before the Great Necromancer. Yet, against a fully awakened god of undeath, martial skill and ancient chariots prove insufficient. Nagash offered Cetra one last chance to bend the knee and serve him. But Cetra does not serve.
And for eternity, you will serve. Cetra does not serve. Cetra rules. So be it. I am death incarnate.
Cetra was dismembered. His bone frames scattered across the burning dunes, and the glorious monuments of Nehekara were pulverized into grey dust. The millions of dead inhabiting the dry tombs were forcibly annexed into Nagash's collective hive mind. To govern his expanding domain and project his will across the crumbling world, Nagash established the Dark Council of the Mortarchs. He bound 9 supreme warlords to his divine essence, granting them immense power, while stripping away their capacity for true rebellion. These lieutenants marched at the head of colossal legionary hosts, crushing mortal resistance across Bretonnia, the Empire, and the Eastern Steppes, ensuring that every fallen soldier immediately joined the ranks of the Undying King. As the fabric of reality began to fray, the High Elf Archmage Teclis enacted a desperate ritual to unravel the great vortex of Ulthuan, releasing the elemental winds of magic into the world to be bound to mortal champions. Teclis came to the conclusion that this desperate measure was needed to fight back against the overwhelming power of chaos during those apocalyptic times. The wind of Shaiish, the purple current of death, sought a living vessel. Nagash acted with supernatural swiftness. He reached out with the mortar staff and drew the entire wind into his colossal frame, ascending to become the absolute incarnate of death. His power swelled to cosmic proportions. Every soul that perished across the mortal globe, every dying breath, and every lingering shade in the underworlds fed directly into his divine reservoir. He was no longer merely a sorcerer leveraging dark spells, but the literal, physical embodiment of mortality's end. Recognizing that the total triumph of Archaon would swallow reality into the realm of chaos, leaving no mortal souls to fuel his eternal kingdom, Nagash forged an uneasy alliance with the surviving leaders of the mortal races. He traveled to the sacred groves of Athalorin, standing alongside Emperor Karl Franz, Tyrion,
Victory is our only choice.
and Malekith within the Council of Incarnates.
The living and the dead stood shoulder to shoulder, beneath the weeping trees, united not by trust, but by the shared terror of absolute annihilation.
The armies of the Incarnate launched a desperate assault upon the ruined city of Middenheim, where Archaon was opening a colossal chaotic rift within the depths of the mountain. Nagash unleashed his divine wrath upon the demonic hosts, his massive form sweeping through ranks of bloodletters and plague-bearers like a scythe through dry grass. Inside the subterranean excavation, as the Incarnates funneled their combined magical essence into closing the expanding void, treachery struck from within. Manfred von Karstein, consumed by bitter jealousy and refusing to exist as a permanent slave to Nagash, struck down Balthazar Gelt, the Incarnate of Metal. The delicate balance of the sealing spell collapsed. Nagash, as powerful as he was able to contain the vortex, but only for a moment. Then it became overwhelming for the Great Necromancer and the other Incarnates. The cosmic rift ruptured, unleashing an unstoppable singularity that began to consume the world layer by layer. As the crust of the earth fractured and the sky dissolved into swirling chaos, Nagash stood upon the disintegrating peak of Middenheim, an eternal monument of dark majesty, watching his dream of a quiet, perfectly ordered realm of bone vanish into the howling abyss.
We watched the sky fracture like sun-baked clay as the great rift beneath Middenheim opened its jaw. Every kingdom, every proud monument, and every sacred altar dissolved into the same hungry void. The bravery of men, the ancient pride of elves, and the cold spite of the unliving meant nothing to the entropy that consumed reality. We fought fiercely to buy a few fleeting hours, yet the darkness was absolute. In the end, the land vanished, the stars were extinguished, and nothing was left, save for the silence of an empty void.
If you desire to learn more about the Lord of the End Times, check out our video on the Grotkin, the most powerful Chaos Champion of Nurgle, and the one who finally brought the Empire of Man to its heels. We thank you for watching.